Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, it's me Gamerturk and this is weekly Sword Online Alicization Q&A, the show that is back to being weekly after not being there for 4 weeks or something. Anyways, we did a slight format change on the weekly War of Underworld Q&A and from now on I do believe I can actually make it weekly again. The little change that was made is basically me going, okay, Q&A will be the last piece of video I will publish before the next episode goes live, so this is probably happening sometime early Saturday when you're watching. But as usual, we got 3 types of questions. First one being the normal questions, which there are no spoilers if you are caught up with the episode. So for this one, if you watched episode 18 of War of Underworld, you are safe to watch these normal questions. Second type of questions, which are the opinion questions, again no spoilers there, it's just my opinions rather than more factual related stuff, but I don't think we have any opinion questions this week, I may be wrong. And the third type of questions are the spoiler related questions, which are content from future episodes that are yet to be adapted. If you don't want spoilers, you should probably skip this portion. I will have a specific spoiler warning before we begin the spoiler questions, so you can safely watch until you get to that warning. With all that out of the way, let's start with the first one. The first one is not particularly a question, but there have been many questions about this, so I thought, hey, I may implement this as a question and answer it. So, Folder 56 says, I'm an anime-only fan, so my expectations about Kirito's awakening were that Asuna, being the most important person and a true love for Kirito, would have had a major part in his awakening. To be honest, after watching the episode, I think that the fact that Eugeo was the major factor in his awakening is fitting with all we saw in Alicization, and also shows the importance that Eugeo has for Kirito, so I'm not complaining about it. And you shouldn't, because if you look back at episode 24 of the Human Realm arc, Eugeo is the key reason why Kirito goes into the state that he is. Eugeo is basically the catalyst that causes Kirito to go vegetable, so while Asuna, Shino and Sugwa are there to not copy over the self-image of Kirito onto Kirito, but rather jumpstart his own self-image, you know, they are not copying anything there, they're just starting to wake Kirito up. They do jumpstart his emotions, but once Kirito's soul is jump-started, it literally just goes back through the pain and regret that he was feeling right before he stopped feeling anything at all. So those 3, they woke him up to a certain extent, but that just caused him to go back to what he was doing right before his vegetable state. And what he needed to come back properly was the acceptance of Eugeo. That's why Eugeo was the key to waking him all up. If Eugeo wasn't there, you wouldn't be able to wake Kirito back up, because Eugeo was the reason why Kirito was in that state. Moving on, I look forward to that Nightmare special video, which has been uploaded a couple days ago, depending on when you're watching this Q&A, so you may want to check that Nightmare special for the entire Nightmare sequence. But on a side note, back during Bercouli vs Vecta, did Vecta actually freeze in place after Bercouli landed a slash at the end, or was that just anime unrealistically portraying it? Unrealistically, I wouldn't say, because that's a fitting dramatic pause where they could have some narration as well from Bercouli, so I believe that was important on the anime side. But realistically speaking, no, Vecta was just instantly cut in half and disconnected from the world. If you're specifically asking for that, how it really happened, that's how it really happened. But can't blame the anime for that, they needed that bit for the dramatic pause and the little narration, so I think that fits on that front. Next one, something that has been on my mind recently. Where has Fanatio and the Crimson Knight been this entire time? Based on the last shot we saw of Fanatio, she doesn't seem to be in any battles, and I would assume the same for the Crimson Knight. Yes, if you look back at when they separated, the 2 of them, well, 4 of them if you count Fizel and Linel, Fanatio, Deusolbert, Fizel and Linel, stayed back at the ravine to protect the human empire, just in case if the decoy wouldn't work and they would keep attacking the ravine. So that was their kind of home base, just to protect the human realm. The rest completely went south, and at this point in time we have Sheta up north with Iskan, Leafa is also there with Lilpilin as of the previous episode, Asuna went further south with Renly, Ronye, Tize and the like, and then encountered Po over there, and Subtilizer is much more to the south, now pursuing Alice after defeating Sinon in her Solus form. So yeah, this Underworld map for day 2 completely answers your questions. Next one, converted accounts to Underworld bring together their stats and equipments from last game, right? So if hypothetically Eugene died in battle, his sword Graham can be reused by someone else, or will it disappear together? Now that's a tricky question, we don't have the exact answer, so maybe I should have had an opinion section, but no, this is basically deduced from available information. It should be very similar to how it all works back in SAO or ALO. If they died while holding the weapon, chances are the weapon will be disconnected with them because they still do have the possession of the weapon. If they were to die after dropping their weapon or something of that sort, the weapon will remain in the world as long as the system allows it. For example, back in SAO, there was a time limit for the dropped weapons to return to their users, after which they would be considered lost or robbed in a sense. And you could cheat this mechanic through other means, which are way too much progressive details that I'm not gonna go into at this point. But yeah, that is pretty much your answer. If they lost their weapon during their combat and then got disconnected, chances are someone has the possibility to pick that weapon up and use it as their own. If they died while still retaining the possession of the weapon properly, the weapon will be disconnected from the world just when they did. Again, nothing explicit stated on this front, this is just my deduction based on available facts, so I hope that's enough. Next one, we got tons of questions here, I'll try to make it quick. Ariorum and Kamura created at least 5 copies of YUNA and Eiji, repaired the AI program that has been breaking down due to having multiple copies at the same time. Did that repair all the copies of YUNA from collapsing, or just one? So did Eiji just stole one of the copies without Ariorum and Kamura's knowledge? If you're confused, this is about the Eiji and YUNA's redemption story, Cordial Chords, the Ordnance Scale epilogue story, which has tied into Alicization as of the previous episode. As far as we know, only the original Black YUNA has been repaired that way, and most certainly Eiji has that original Black YUNA. I won't say Ariorum and Kamura doesn't even realize their original has been stolen, chances are they are aware, but something has happened and they still have their own copies, and the original does not particularly matter all that much because they can copy the AIs that they have as copies already. 2. Eiji first converted his SAO account to ALO, right? Not exactly, let's start over there without even reading the second part of the question. I'm not sure if Eiji ever converted his SAO account into ALO in the first place. I mean, most of the major characters did not do that, and if we go into the conversion mechanic, Kirito never converted his SAO account into ALO either. He just logged into ALO with his SAO account. At that point, conversion was not a thing in the first place. Conversion is a feature of the Seed Nexus, and neither SAO nor ALO were created with the Seed Nexus, so no inherent conversion mechanics exist there. So when Kirito logs in his SAO account into ALO, he doesn't necessarily convert his SAO account into ALO, he's just logging in with the data, and the assumption is that his SAO data was pretty much copied and imported to ALO, and Cardinal in ALO had to make sense of it. I don't think any explicit factual stuff exists on the matter, but we know conversion was not a thing back then. And same would go with Eiji. Even if he used his SAO account to log into ALO, chances are things would be bugged, etc., and he wouldn't have considered having converted his account into ALO. So the second part, how did he convert it back to his SAO one in mid-battle? That's much more simple. I think I already explained it on YUNA and didn't explain it twice with Eiji to not make the video longer than it already was. But basically, YUNA just brought over their SAO data from the SAO servers and overwrote their current avatars with the SAO avatars and stuff. 3. After Cordial Chords, I assume Eiji turned YUNA into a navigation pixie for his ALO account. Yes, that is very much the assumption that we have too. We only have assumptions on that front, so no factual exact stuff from Reki because he was way too vague with his statements on Twitter too. So is she still stored in the SAO server at that point, or stored in some other computer just like Yui? The implication is that, yeah, she is stored now wherever Eiji wants her stored. But from what we've seen in Alicization, she does still have proper access to the SAO server, so she can go in, open up a port to the outside, just like she was able to in Ordnance Scale and Cordial Chords, and still do all the stuff she was able to do beforehand. So it's just the hosting device has been changed from the looks of it. 4. Eiji and YUNA, the Pixie version, converted into Underworld from ALO, but that doesn't make sense. How can Navigation Pixie be converted to another VR world? I actually explained this back in the explained episode for episode 17, that was? I am confusing numbers at this point, but the episode with Eiji and YUNA's appearance in Underworld. Chances are she was mainly considered an item belonging to Eiji, much like Pina belongs as an item to Shilika, and thus she was converted along with Eiji as she was doing that. There's no other explanation, but it's not like it doesn't make any sense. That's how it works. Now I think about it, how did the ALO and Eugeo players get to keep their weapons and gear after converted into Underworld? That's how conversion works, like your entire account gets transferred to another game, but what happens afterwards is the key. You say that shouldn't be possible. If I remember correctly, the gear won't convert into the new VR world and all items and money from previous game will be lost. That is not entirely correct, because the conversion feature brings everything you have. It's just that the new game doesn't want you starting with such unfair advantage you may have gotten in some other game, so it removes all your items and stuff to start you from the ground up, except for the effort you have put into the character alone. So that is very much possible, and that is exactly what happened. How did YUNA appear as a pixie and then transform into Black YUNA? I explained that in the explained video, and if I'm not mistaken, the following questions are spoiler questions that I do not want to answer anyways. Let me see. When Eiji died in Underworld, why did YUNA disappear as well? I explained that in the video. When a player dies in Underworld, their account data will be lost, right? That is spoiler questions. Wait for the epilogue to be adapted for an explicit answer for that. Okay, done with the lightning rounds. At least I planned those to be lightning rounds, but I still explained way too much. Next one, loudly explained, and I agree with the whole nightmare sequence, could have been better. And my question is, how come Eugeo's Blue Rose Sword can still use Enhance Armament when the weapon itself is totally broken and has short durability? The weapon is broken in appearance, but it has not turned into polygons, which means the weapon still exists as it is. That's the key point, and the perfect weapon control is the ability of the weapon itself. As long as the weapon exists, it can be cast properly, provided their physical situation actually allows it. And Eugeo's Blue Rose Sword, it still exists, and Kirito had it impaled to the ground at that point, which can easily use the same enhanced armament as it was able to when it was a complete sword. Next one, why doesn't Sinon use her bow and summons her sniper? Shouldn't she stand a better chance with the bow? Referring to Sinon versus Subtilizer battle, I believe this question was from about 3 weeks ago when she first summoned Hecate. And no, she doesn't stand a better chance with a bow, because she is fighting against a guy who is pretty much incarnate personified. And against incarnation you can only defend, or in this case attack, via incarnation, otherwise you can't compete with that. So summoning her sniper was definitely the correct call in that case, and otherwise she wouldn't be able to do any damage whatsoever. With summoning Hecate, she can charge it up with her own incarnation, with her own beliefs, and she can actually challenge Gabrielle's incarnation in return. Next one, related to super accounts and the healing ability of Terraria. Does restoring someone's durability mitigate their pain? No, it does not. You still feel the exact pain as long as that wound exists. If you heal the wound, and you don't have the pain psychologically in your mind, of course, you no longer feel the pain. But Leafa in that case is not even healing everything she has, because it still does take some time and she needs to be agile. She just heals the bare minimum necessity to keep fight going. So yes, she still does feel the pain, and I'm pretty sure after the event she still does feel some psychological pain as well after what happened. 2, assuming the other super accounts have the same infinite object and system authority. Let me correct you there, it's not infinite object and system control authority, it's the max object and system control authority, because infinite, that doesn't work in programming. Do any of them have any sacred art system commands explained to them? No, they were basically told how the system works, which includes a little bit of incarnation introduction to them, and then chucked straight into the world. I mean, even Asuna you never see using a sacred art to heal herself in any case. She's consistently using incarnation when she does it herself, or lets other people heal her because she's not accustomed to the system command sacred arts in the first place. There are some events in the future that I am not gonna go into because Alicization anime is not even gonna go adapt that. So you're gonna have to wait and see, or just read the light novels to see how competent some people get at sacred arts. But again, once you're competent to a certain level with incarnation, sacred arts, that's just a tool you can simply use via incarnation as well. You have seen Kirito do it in episode 18, you will see him do it more. He's basically using his own incarnation to cast sacred arts on Poe and do some other stuff via sacred arts too. Despite them looking so otherworldly at times, they are still sacred arts. He's just capable of doing them because incarnation allows him to control sacred arts in a much more intricate manner. Next question, and this was a very last second addition to the Q&A. Wasago claims that he loves Kirito and he's the one he can unconditionally believe in. What is exactly that makes Kirito stand out to Wasago to make him unconditionally believe in Kirito? His reason for specifically targeting Kazuto feels confusing to me. Sorry, but could you explain this? Yes, you see, Kirito is quite naive as fuck, and he likes to never letting go of his hope in certain circumstances. Again, that's why he mentions floor 5, and even before that, with Wasago doing so much in Aincrad so early on to make everyone lose hope, it's Kirito that never loses hope and constantly tries to foil their plans. That's why Wasago sees Kirito as the one he can unconditionally believe in a, not a sarcastic sense, but in a negative sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but he's obviously not always believing in Kirito for something, but like he knows Kirito will do something to foil his plans. That's what gives him excitement, and the thought of snuffing that feeling out of Kirito for good, that gives him much more excitement. That's what he's looking for, and that's why Wasago specifically targets Kazuto and the Flash in a similar sense. I hope that answers your question. Next one, again about weapon durability. I want to ask, is there a difference of the durability length between a divine weapon that is made by the administrator and a divine weapon that grows from the power of the gods? No explicit statements, but there is absolutely no reason for them to be any different. The durability of a weapon, of course, depends on the weapon type, as well as the object class of said weapon. These are all that matters, whether it was transformed by Quinella or got created through natural means. That makes no difference, the stats is what matters. And with that we move on to the spoiler section, so if you don't want any spoilers, this is where you leave the video now, and please hit that like button before you leave, it really helps. Thank you very much for watching so far, and I'll see you in the next one, which will be Alicization Explained for episode 19. So yeah, see you there. With that we are moving on to the spoiler section. Will Asuna have a major role in the ending of the war? I mean, it's pretty clear thanks to the opening that she will fight with Alice and Kirito against statwise. Please watch the opening explained for that. No, she's not gonna fight statwise at all. Well, she does have a major role in the ending of the war, but it depends on what kind of a major role you're talking about. She pretty much ended the war already. There is no more war going on. It's completely over. But yeah, she's not gonna have more action set pieces dedicated to her. She had her time with Mother's Rosario and that was it. But she still does have non-action roles to play in the series. And 2, will the relationship between Asuna and Kirito get a development or will remain the same as episode 1 of Alicization, where Kirito tells her that he wants to go study in America and asks her to come with him? Slight developments in the epilogue of the story and more developments in Unital Ring arc, which is not gonna be adapted anytime soon. So yeah, there will be changes in Kazuto's study plans, or rather future plans I should say, but I won't go further into it because we're gonna have it in the anime, then we're gonna have it in Unital Ring, which we don't have a translation yet, so that's as much as I can give you. But yeah, those were the 2 spoiler questions that I had. Oh my god, this recording is almost 30 minutes, so I hope I can trim this down to a reasonable length. But again, thank you very much for watching. I do hope my change in format will actually help me get the War of Underworld weekly Q&A back on track, but we'll see. If you're watching this before the episode airs, I have succeeded, so please clap for me and hit that like button maybe, subscribe. I'll answer your questions if you subscribe. Thanks. Bye, I'll see you tomorrow not tomorrow, probably gonna take 2 days after you see this video, but I am rambling too much. I'll see you in the next time. Stay cool until then. Please become a channel member or support me on Patreon because it's cool. It helps a lot. It's cool. You stay cool. Bye.